Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Nick Zulovich, part of the team at Cherokee Media Group and senior editor at Subprime Auto Finance News and AutoFin Journal. In today's webinar, why compliance is key to effective, efficient repossessions, we're going to learn more from Brad Davis and Naz Akel from MVTRAC. Before we get started, I want to go over just a couple quick housekeeping items for today's webinar. We are recording today's session, so keep watch of your inbox for a message containing a link to the recording so you can share it and review it again at your opportunity. And as an attendee, you will be in listen-only mode, but you can ask questions using the Q&A box and the chat function at the bottom of your screen. And we'll reserve some time after the presentation for a Q&A segment. So with plenty of knowledge and recommendations to share, let's get right to Brad and Naz for our webinar. The floor is now yours, gentlemen.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us and taking part of your afternoon to join Naz and I, and hopefully what'll be a productive mind share session, learn a little bit more about MV and how we're helping our lender partners stay compliant during these times and enhance some automated processes that historically have been manual, and just add value across the repossession spectrum from your day one classic accounts all the way through your warehouse accounts and everything in between. So before we begin, my name is Brad Davis. I'm the CEO of MVTRAC. And joining me is my colleague, Naz Akel. He is our EVP of Operations and my right-hand man in making sure that everything MV flows smoothly, and we'll be ham and egging it through today's discussion and share some cool stuff with you. But before we begin talking, I wanted to share just a brief overview video for those of you that are unfamiliar with LPR and just in general, what MV can do for you. So before we start talking, let's go there.
Hide and seek is an exciting game, but for auto finance institutions, quickly recovering delinquent assets is critical towards optimizing portfolio ROI. But many lenders are still using antiquated recovery methodologies that are time-consuming, limited, and labor-intensive. Welcome to Modern Collateral Recovery by MVTRAC. It's an innovative way to monitor, capture, and analyze data on the collective auto population, and to access that dynamic information on demand as leverage towards the recovery of delinquent assets. Our dedicated network of recovery professionals operate MVTRAC's patented LPR technology to scan license plates across the nation. This valuable vehicle data is aggregated in MVTRAC's secure proprietary database, one of the largest LPR databases in the market, whose value and ability to locate assets increases as more data is collected. Using both actively scanned live LPR data and historical data points, combined with analysis, our professionals quickly locate and safely recover your assets. Once an asset is compliantly recovered and the post-recovery process is completed, you receive an instant notification. MVTRAC Solutions seamlessly integrates with your preferred recovery platform. Just distribute accounts from your portfolio, and your job is done. Throughout the process, you are in complete control, from account status changes to detailed custom reports and everything in between. Experience immediate lift through enhanced recovery and compliance metrics, all risk-free. With zero onboarding costs and a you only pay when we recover philosophy, MVTRAC lets our production do the talking. As the fastest growing single source recovery solution available, MVTRAC is where innovative technology, intelligent data, compliance, and comprehensive recovery services collide, complementing traditional recovery strategies to provide a simple, cost-effective turnkey solution designed to ensure that your assets are recovered effectively and safely every time. Come revolutionize recovery with MVTRAC.
Hopefully that was helpful. Just a minor overview and touches on a lot of the points that Naz and I will be sharing with the group over the next kind of 20 to 30 minutes. Wanted to start off by sharing just some core information about MV that gives you some context and color around what some key differentiators are in our platform before kind of going on to our actual lines of business. So on the far left, you'll see over time, we started off as a traditional repossession services business probably 25, 30 years ago, and have really gotten into the meat and potatoes of our service offering, which is our license plate recognition offering. And that's been in the market since 2009. And since then, we've collected over 6 billion referenceable images. And as we partner with Motorola, partner with our sister company DRN underneath the Motorola umbrella, we now have access to an additional 10 billion referenceable images, giving us a unique ability to reference and access and produce actionable insights on over 16 billion LPR images today, which makes it the largest referenceable LPR database in North America. Since inception, MV has recovered over $5 billion in assets, and that's across our service offerings, from our core LPR offering to our traditional forwarding and skip to repo services to our deeper skip, higher level, highline repossessions as well. And lastly, MV, as you'll see later in the presentation, has a dynamic and comprehensive market coverage. We provide services in all 50 states. We have active LPR coverage in 40 of those 50 states, but have the ability to recover assets in all 50, in addition to the ability and historical performance of recovering assets in Canada, Mexico, Guam, the country of Georgia, Panama, and Puerto Rico. Getting to our solution overview, as you'll see on the far left, MVTRAC, as I've noted previously, is our core offering, our core license plate recognition technology offering. It is a passive repossession strategy where we ingest assignments from the lender community. We put those in a cloud hot list, and our nationwide network of cameras and agents that are actively scanning their areas of operation get live alerts when one of our cameras produces a hit on a vehicle of interest that is constantly pinging that cloud-based database. We have some other actionable insights and integrations with DRN, integrations externally with partner organizations such as RDN and ClearPlan, which Naz and I are going to be covering later. But it all enables this very real-time, compliant, automated way of recovering assets with little to no human interaction. Moving to the middle, our MV Recovery division is our more traditional skip tracing services division. That division handles our early stage, your traditional day one forwarding accounts to your traditional, skip to repo accounts. In addition to the processes we follow from assignment ingestion, putting it in our cloud hot list, running it through our leads engine, we're also preliminarily gathering some additional information such as public data, records associated with the vehicle and the vehicle of interest. And our preliminary administrative professionals are preparing our caseworkers so that when they take on that assignment, they can hit the ground running in actively engaging our agents in the field and effectively picking up those vehicles as fast as possible, leading to a decrease in your days outstanding for assets and ability to remarket that vehicle faster. Going one step further in the traditional skip tracing services, we have our MV Intel division. Our MV Intel division is kind of MV Recovery on steroids, where we're not only providing those traditional services, employing a caseworker for each account, we're giving the lenders active updates every 42 to 72 hours or whatever their requirement is. But we're also employing, private investigators. We're employing a team or our network of private investigators, law enforcement professionals, pilots, boat captains, and these are your deeper skip, your higher value, very hard to locate assets. And so, if there's something that is of interest that's been outstanding for a while, that has a very high book value in your portfolio, MV Intel is the division that can help handle that as well. Before I go any further, I'll always kind of back and forth with my right-hand man, Naz, and see if there's anything else that he wanted to add before we go on to the next slide.
Thank you, Brad. Yeah, I think just as we look at the solutions overview, one thing that I'll say is, we offer a full book of services to our clients, but the one thing that I think differentiates us is the relationships that we have with our clients and agents. So obviously it's simple for people to, be a part of this presentation, kind of see the solutions overview, see the services that we offer, but understand that it's backed up by our team members, our management team, to make sure that we have, we can pivot, communicate effectively with our clients and agents. That way, when you, are signing on with us for us to, bring this service to your business, you have a team that you can count on. You have folks that you can reach out to get questions answered, or as we all know, get things resolved that, come to the surface on the day-to-day in this industry. So I think, like I said, just to round out, it's a great solutions overview backed up by a fantastic team that is ready to support 24/7, answer questions as they come up, and get, things resolved.
Great, thanks, Naz. So moving forward, as again, we're giving this kind of overview of MV, touching on our coverage. We do, as I said earlier, have an ability to recover assets in all 50 states, including some US territories that are not on the map today, or they're not on the map shown. But we have active presences in 40 of those 50 from an LPR perspective or a camera coverage perspective. And of those territories, we specifically are very concentrated in the top 10 markets, your Californias, your Texases, your Floridas, and you'll see those represented by the red state designations here on the map. But furthermore, MV goes one step further in the sense that we're also covering the top 50 cities from a marketing perspective. We're covering your major sports teams market, your NFL, your MLB, your NHL, your NBA markets. We're covering every city that is in the top 50 from a vehicle concentration perspective and a population concentration perspective. And that's because MV focuses on where the work is actually going to be. If you look at the active repossessions that are affected in the United States every year, which averages around 1.8 million or so, roughly 85% of those are captured in these red states that you'll see on the map. And that's where MV has the highest concentration of its camera systems to date. And Naz, if you want to maybe just touch on how you interface with agents in the field, how your team effectively kind of manages keeping those active, et cetera, that would be great.
Yeah, I think one of the main things we do is just look at population numbers and make sure that our agents are generating scans relative to population numbers in specific states. So, we take a hands-on approach with everything that happens here at MV, and specifically with the agent perspective. We want to make sure that our agents are, gridding and collecting, license plate, vehicle locations from areas and geographic locations that are valuable. And we want to make sure that we drive our agents into those areas. Obviously, we look at a combination of analytics in regards to addresses and what's happened over time in regards to repossession history. But these states where we have kind of what I would describe as elite coverage, it's going to be because our agents, obviously, they've made significant investments in, our software and technology, and they are out there being the driving force producing it. But also, MV's backing them up strategically, like I said, making sure that the areas that are getting covered properly relative to population, to make sure that if there is a wanted unit, that we've done everything we can from an LPR perspective to make sure that our cameras have seen that unit.
Great, thanks, Naz. So to touch on a more kind of very market appropriate dynamic as we've all kind of, been working from home lately and seeing the impacts of the coronavirus firsthand and its impact on our industry. MV definitely jumped to action because we do, as Nas touched on, have a very close relationship and value our relationships with both our lenders and our agents in the field, especially the agents in the field who were very much impacted, kind of being a part of the food chain. We want to make sure that we're effectively doing what we can, not only to provide the best service to our clients, but also making sure that we're, standing by our agents in their time of need. So, in terms of what MV has done over the past probably 6 or 7 months now that, this has kind of been going on since March, MV kept 75% of its agent network operational by instituting this kind of Reads incentive program where we paid out over $3 million to date to our agents to be consistently, running our camera systems, making sure that they're collecting the LPR data. And what's funny is, as we're helping to kind of keep these businesses afloat during times when, everyone is kind of seen or knows someone who experienced furloughs or cost reduction measures, all in an effort to keep businesses alive and running, MV has tried to do its part as well. And I think the benefit that we've collected back from that effort is not only an increased level of, agent adoration and a deeper relationship formed during this time with our agents, but we've also, as a byproduct, collected probably the richest data set in LPR history, because not only does it inform us of, it confirms known addresses. It obviously confirms and shows the consistency in the patterns by which people who are still going to the office versus people who are staying at home. It can help empower the migration studies that we're offering through our sister organization, through their DR Insights offering, because we can actually show where people are either sheltering in place or have migrated somewhere else. And that data may differ from the known address that you have on file. From an agent impact perspective, there are higher costs of doing business, not only from a compliance perspective, but just from a protection perspective. We've seen obviously an increase in PPE expenses. Obviously lot movement has dramatically decreased as the effort to touch vehicles more, touch personal property more, things like that. So a more strategic approach to lot management has definitely been top of mind, as well as scheduling. So during when customers are coming back and picking up their personal property during redemptions and things like that, a more stringent scheduling with protective measures has been put in place on the agent side. And lastly, I think from a lender side, and John can talk about this later on in our presentation, but what we have been seeing from a high level perspective is that the recovery has been relatively slow in some areas. There's continued moratoriums up until recently. Maryland was also a part of this list in addition to DC. But I know that even though moratoriums have been removed in some states, some lenders continue to adhere to guidance. So, if there's not a moratorium in Texas, we're still seeing a lot of lenders not picking up cars in Texas because the guidance is to maybe slow that effort down from a repo perspective. I think from an overall hot list perspective, or an overall sense of the repossession assignment volume that we're seeing out in the marketplace, we're roughly at about 80% of what we were in February, which tells me that, we're not back up to full speed yet, but I know that that's slowly coming back to fruition and coming back to that 100% watermark, which we anticipate seeing in early to late Q1 of next year. And lastly, I think, there's a pent-up demand. I think that the lenders did a great job by standing by their customers and, putting in these loan deferment plans in place and letting customers kind of take a breather and not worry about their car payment while they're trying to make sure that all of the work from home measures and the pandemic related steps they're taking to manage their families and their finances and their careers are taking a priority over their payments. So the lender community has done a very good job, but we do see that those programs are starting to expire now and into the back half of Q4 and into Q1. And we will, I think, anticipate a latency that will drive an increase in repo production during those times. And last, we're seeing that assignment mix as a correlative measure to what I just said. We're seeing that assignment mix shift as well, where a few months ago we were seeing, as people were starting to come back online, that the assignment mix was 75 to 90% assignments that were out for repossession pre-COVID in February, and now we've seen that decrease to around 50%. Which means 50% of the work that's out there today is actually new assignments coming to the market. So those are new opportunities for vendors such as ourselves. And I open it up to Naz if you wanted to add anything further before we move on.
No, I think you did a good job talking about MV's actions with the scans incentive, and obviously, we're always in communication with our agents about things they're experiencing and working that information back to our clients, and just obviously keeping that flow between our agents and clients and ourselves to make sure that we're all kind of pressing forward in the right direction.
Perfect. And, as we're kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of our presentation, we're here to talk about compliance. We're here to talk about some of the fancy tools that MV has at its disposal now. And one that has actually been in our toolkit for quite some time is our case claim feature. And I wanted to open this up for Naz to talk about it because it is a feature of MV as you engage us as a vendor that helps protect you from a compliance perspective. It not only protects the agent in the field, it protects our lender on the back end and our customer on the front end to mitigate wrongful repossessions, et cetera. But I'm going to shut my mouth now and I'm going to turn this over to Naz because this is his bread and butter and he knows this better than anybody.
Thanks, Brad. So MVTRAC case claim, it's a real-time account verification function that essentially eliminates unauthorized repossessions. And how we do that is we have a live integration with our client's system of record. So with our live integration, we obviously have seamless access to active cases and we monitor account status. So if anything goes on hold or goes on, closes or whatever happens with that status of that assignment, it happens in real time and our system obviously adjusts in real time. What that means from an agent network perspective is that typically in a live pickup situation, from an agent's perspective, and everybody may know this, but obviously agents in the field, they use many systems of record. The amount of information that folks are at least from an ops perspective, the amount of information that folks are required to remember in this industry gets quite scary, and it gets magnified in environments like COVID or any moratorium. So in a traditional recovery environment, an agent, if they were recovering a live LPR pickup, in some instances, they would have to call a provider. That provider, that human being calls another human being. That the human being on the one end obviously is confirming that the case is active, confirming that the agent is in, an area that isn't suppressed or has a moratorium, assigning that job manually to the agent, assuming that it's the right company and the user has the appropriate access. So essentially, the entire manual process of recovering units is streamlined and automated through the case claim. So how we do that is obviously the live integration with the client system of record. In the field, when the agent finds a vehicle that's out for repo, what they do is they're required to type in the last 6 of the VIN and the full tag of the unit, or they can just type in the full VIN of the unit. What that does is it automatically connects with our integration to confirm that that case is active. If that case is active, MVTRAC then automatically verifies that the subcontractor is authorized with the client. Obviously, everyone's familiar with do not use lists, and there's some clients that, you know, prefer certain agents aren't involved with their work due to history. So our system automatically checks for that. We automatically check for, you know, any geographic suppression or moratorium. So if we get, you know, a halt from a client for a specific state or zip code, our system's able to identify that information. You know, after the claim is performed by typing in the tag in the last 6, we obviously automatically assign that case to the agent. There's automatically a date and timestamp, and the user's recorded, and essentially the subcontractor completes the reporting information and it's sent back to the client in real time. So everything you're looking at on this screen happens within 1 second. So there is no there's no way to be left open here for a problem to occur, because 1, we're integrating with your system of record. Our agents are typing in specific attributes like the license plate or the VIN of the unit. Once they type in that information and submit their claim, it'll automatically run through all the 7 points that I went through to confirm that, yes, this agent is authorized. This vehicle is able to be recovered, is not part of a moratorium or suppression. And it gets assigned to the agent, they complete the information, and ultimately the recovery is executed with all the recovery information being sent instantly. So I think this is our biggest value from a compliance perspective, you know, that MVTRAC offers. Obviously, we're eliminating the potential risk of, you know, human beings clicking something wrong. Hey, collateral recoveries on the phone. Well, there could be 900 of those, you know, agencies with that name. So that on top of, imagine an agent in the field that's located a unit. He may have to take action quickly, and there isn't exactly time from a safety perspective, at least when it comes to our agents, you know, lingering around areas or units that they have to recover quickly. Having to make a phone call and go through that whole manual process is really problematic. So the case claim solves for compliance, but I also think it solves for safety in regards to our agents in the field. And ultimately, when you can have agents in the field that are compliant and safe, they're going to be able to work more efficiently and quicker, which lets them check more addresses. So instead of wasting time making phone calls and figuring out if they're authorized or things like that happen, it's all automated, it's all compliant, it's all safe. They get the recovery process and done, and they can move on to the next vehicles to perform this same process. That way they can be effective in their day-to-day op. And that is really kind of why agents you know, love working for MV, because it is a streamlined process and it allows them to execute, you know, safely and compliantly. So I think that that kind of rounds it out, and hope everybody enjoyed the rant there.
I think that's appreciate that, Naz. And I think, you know, on the next slide, you'll get some additional opportunities to brag about some of the other things that are ancillary to the case claim process, but just as crucial, you know, from an agent perspective in the field to our perspective as vendors, which ultimately provides the compliant value to our lender partners, kind of upward in the chain. So I wanted to kind of cover some of the new innovations that MV is working on, and actually, Naz, you know, as it relates to our multi-platform leads system, why don't you just give a little bit of an overview on how we're pushing leads today as we ingest assignments through, you know, the DRN platform, our own platform, and the ClearPlan platform.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward thing, so I'll try to keep it to a couple sentences. But obviously, when we receive an assignment, we can very quickly identify the best address through, you know, LPR and analytics. That information gets sent to, you know, our agents in the field that we know have a high recovery rate, that are going to check addresses in a timely manner. And most importantly, we get that information to the agents, and we get it to our agents quickly, and we get them the best information through, you know, our mapping, through ClearPlan. And obviously agents can act fast, but most importantly, they can also communicate back to us. So, you know, when we get an assignment, it goes through all our analytics, we get the best address to the best agent, and we know whether or not they've checked that address. We know if they've recovered it, and we know if they haven't recovered it. And if they haven't recovered it, one of the great things that our agents do through that case claim process is they have an option to put in a reason to why that unit is not recovered, which I think is super helpful, because it's easy to, look at assignments coming in and seeing what I would describe as, must run or high scoring addresses, and that unit's not recovered. Well, come to find it, an MV agent has gone out into the field, located that unit, and, the VIN's scraped off, a tire's missing, it's got significant damage. So it allows the leads platform allows us to get the best information to the best agents. And again, going back to that case claim function, it allows them to communicate back to us if, there's a reason why that unit wasn't recovered, which ultimately lets us work with our clients to kind of communicate the status of those specific assignments if they're not recovered.
And those are great points, Naz. And I'm actually going to ask you to cover the next two as you're talking about the actionable insights that are provided with some of the data integrations we have with DRN now. So if you could touch on, our Hydra data integration and the public information that Hydra also ingests along with the historical LPR information, and how we effectively ingest that information to overlay it with the assignments we get from lenders, ultimately driving the performance of our client dedicated teams. That would be great.
Yeah, I think, depending on what solution that you're using MV for, given that we have, the passive LPR approach as well as our skip and forwarding departments, whatever you choose, whatever service level we're providing for your accounts, we have the ability with obviously our partnership with DRN and their Hydra system, as well as things we do at MV to be able to, identify what we feel to be the best possible address for any specific case. And I think, what that comes down to is just, back to making sure that our agents are as efficient as possible and we're performing as efficiently as possible for our clients. We take LPR data, we take, primary address information that is sent over, and, all of that goes through a process or a logic that says, hey, here is where your best information is. So instead of us, having a bunch of people figuring out where the best place to go is or who the best agent is, we automate all of that. So we can quickly identify for any assignment what we feel the best address is and who the best agent to recover that vehicle is. And on top of it, we can check and see how many visits we've had at a location, or, how many times our agents typically go there. If the vehicles are cited, the day and time that they're generally seen at. So it's a very high level, immediate kind of, here's your best information, please go take action on it. And that's kind of what the, enhanced assignment scoring line item is there. So I hope I kind of did a good explanation of how we are using technology to, find the best possible information and get it to the best possible agent. And then also be able to report with a status on, we've either recovered that vehicle or we haven't recovered it, and here's why.
Perfect. And I think, lastly, as we're kind of covering the last 3 points of this slide, and I'll be quick just in the matter of time, because we want to make sure that we give ample opportunity for John Ernest from Bridgecrest and Dion Gage from Exeter, who have been gracious enough with their time to join us and share some of the success stories that they've had with MV. So just, I'm going to kind of roll through the last slide and a half here. And the ultimate takeaways are that, MV is growing its agent footprint across the nation as we're combining the agent networks from both DRN and MV into one. And along with some of the internal improvements, along with the external integrations that Naz was talking about, we're definitely focused on making a hyper compliant automated platform that utilizes the best and most richest LPR data set in the nation, while also leveraging the largest collection of agent assets in the field of any vendor in the country. And I think that's the kind of overarching takeaway here. And I'm not going to go through all of these points because we've covered them in various ways throughout the presentation. What I want to do now is open it up to for our DRN partner Neha if you're on, or Nick from Cherokee, to kind of engage the audience, and we can either open it up to questions from the audience perspective, or we can have John kind of share some of the success stories that he's had with MV specifically. So I didn't know if you wanted me to ask questions, or if you wanted to facilitate that. I'll open it up to you.
Absolutely. Great job, Brad and Naz. A great company overview. And just a quick reminder that we are recording today's webinar. So keep watch of your inbox for a message containing a link to that recording. I guess I will get the ball rolling very quickly, and then Brad will let you continue on the conversation. John, we'll start with you, and then Dion, share your perspectives as well. Just a quick overview about your position with the finance company and your interaction with MVTRAC. John, we'll begin with you, and then Dion, your perspectives as well.
Yeah, great. My name was mentioned, John Ernest, Managing Director at Bridgecrest. Responsible for loss mitigation, which includes recovery and remarketing. We have recently engaged with MVTRAC. We had a relationship before, but we kind of made the relationship a little bit deeper with kind of LPR staging. DRN and MVTRAC were really helpful in helping us kind of build out our business case for vehicles that are serviced within our portfolio that are eligible for recovery that don't have GPS functionality, to be able to figure out and essentially put together the business case to support when we would engage MVTRAC with LPR staging. And we recently put that in. We had we still have a 50-50 test with some of the portfolio that isn't going through LPR staging, and 50% that is. The 50% that is was also kind of serviced with MVTRAC and another LPR provider, and we had a lot of success with MVTRAC. We've been able to find a lot of vehicles through the LPR staging portfolio, and that 50% that we're running as a test, we're seeing about a 30% higher recovery rate on the portfolio that we have going through that. So had a lot of success so far. We hope to continue that and continue our engagement with MVTRAC.
That's great. John, I really appreciate the perspective, and we have enjoyed our partnership to date. I think one of the things that I appreciate about John and Bridgecrest as general is their embracing of analytics and data to inform their strategic decisions as an organization. John, what has been your experience so far with MV from a compliance perspective? From seeing wrongfuls and things like that, for post-recovery reporting. If you could share any kind of feedback for the audience, that would be great as well.
Yeah, beyond just the data and the validation exercise that we're going through with the LPR staging, what we've seen so far is kind of a direct line of communication with MVTRAC, which has helped with our setup, as well as the ongoing business that we have, and the feedback from my team in the recovery space is that, because we're certainly very concerned about compliance and wrongful repossessions, that the process that we have in place is really kind of pretty robust, and we haven't seen wrongful repossessions occurring. There's always risk, right? Even if we have a live system of record, that something might not get passed through, but as far as we're capable of sharing information back and forth with our system of record of when cancellations are going through, and what we're seeing being assigned through MVTRAC has been a very successful process.
Perfect. And how do you see, as we're, I know that we're still in the throes of completing this test. I know that Bridgecrest recently selected MV to not only be its staging provider of choice, but to also, we were in talks about expanding our relationship. And how do you see that unfolding as we approach, 2021? And what are some of the other areas where you see MV being helpful to Bridgecrest?
Yeah, it's really interesting, because I think what we're recognizing through this process is beyond just the increased recovery rates. The information that we're getting back from us is helping with our management of our direct agent network, and with our internal skip team, recognizing addresses that vehicles are being picked up on that our direct agents might be able to help with. And also, if we're not able to find the addresses that vehicles are getting picked up on, is that something that we could control, right? And so I think we're looking to expand our utilization of LPR. I think we expect the test to be successful, which certainly increases volume, but also trying to find other segments of vehicles that there will be value on here. And I mentioned how we have GPS functionality on some of our vehicles. That GPS doesn't always work. Even if it does work, it may not lead to a successful recovery. So are there pockets of vehicles that we're able to leverage this technology on, even with GPS functionality that'll help us with recoveries?
Perfect. And then in closing, John, did you have any additional, insights or thoughts, things that, I don't think of, but you think of, things that are of value to you as as we're kind of, increasing our rate of communication, our partnership together? Are there any other kind of miscellaneous items that jump out to you that you'd like to share?
Not necessarily. I think the additional products that you have with MV Recovery and MV Intel are certainly things that we're exploring as well. And the fact that, the two companies, DRN and MVTRAC, under the Motorola umbrella, I think we're just pretty excited about the progress you're making. And I think you've shared a lot of very useful information to this group that we're hopefully able to leverage in our future as well.
As are we, and I can't say it enough. I think Nas is an integral part of that, and that's why he's a part of this discussion, because he's the one that makes sure everything internally doesn't break. And sometimes I just get to do a lot of the talking, but it actually takes human effort. So kudos to my partner, Nas, in order to kind of make that happen. And it's nice to hear feedback from the lender community that that's something that we've identified as, an opportunity. I think there's a real need out there. I think from an MV perspective, we do have the ability to provide that end-to-end solution with those analytical insights, as we combine our efforts with DRN under Motorola. And we're excited for what's to come in 2021. So John, thank you so much for your insight and the things that you shared with the group today. And with that, I'd like to kind of turn it to Dion Gage from Exeter. Dion, are you on?
Yes, sir, I am here.
Awesome. Well, Dion, why don't you introduce yourself, and wanted to kind of run through, a similar set of questions, but a little more specific to Exeter. But before we get started, maybe introduce yourself just for the audience, and we can go from there.
Yeah, my name is Dion Gage. I'm the Director of Vendor Management at Exeter Finance. Over the repossession network, strategy, placement, assignment, as well as impounds, and making sure that all of our assignments are put out based upon delinquency, risk score, things like that, for the company.
So Dion, how do you employ MV today in your overall collection strategy?
Currently, we place all of our skip assignments or our charged off assignments with MV through our license plate recognition platform.
And from a pickup perspective, or some of the highlights that you're excited about when you think of MV in terms of performance or overall lift and recovery rates, anything that you'd like to share with the audience today?
Yeah, I mean, since we brought MV aboard, and I don't know, I think we're going on 2.5, 3 years. MV is consistently number one out of our 2 LPR vendors. I don't think you guys have ever finished behind the other, as well as since we put you guys aboard in space, you guys are finding vehicles that our other forwarders in the skip space have not been successful in finding, by several hundred. So definitely been a great increase for us on our charged off network.
And from a post-recovery reporting perspective, mitigation of wrongful repos, compliance perspective, what's your experience been like with MV today?
So MV is actually one of our only vendors that has never had a wrongful repo. And again, you guys have been with us for 2.5 years, almost 3 now. Never had a wrongful repo from a compliance perspective. You meet all of our compliance requirements. You guys have been great to work with. You're always available. It doesn't seem to matter what time it is, especially you, Brad, right? Have always been there for us. So
Yeah,
and great partnership.
And likewise, Dion, I would say that extends to both you and John. We enjoy a direct line. It's how, and you'll find the same with Naz. We just enjoy a direct form of communication. It eliminates emails and waiting and all that stuff. And it's, I always just say, call my cell anytime, day or night. And I appreciate that you guys are just as available as Naz and I try to make ourselves as well. Lastly, how do you see yourself, or how do you see Exeter expanding its relationship? I know that I have an answer for that, but interested to hear how you think you'll expand your relationship with MV as we head into 2021.
Well, I mean, as you know, this year of 2020 has been interesting in the repossession space, to say the least. COVID has brought all kinds of challenges through to all of us. And one thing I can say is MV is not spared any resource to help us figure out and overcome any challenges that we've had. You guys have hopped on, conference call after conference call, helped us, go through data and figure out what the best strategy is just out in the marketplace. You guys have been pivotal for our success. Coming into 2021, I quite honestly, I think the sky's the limit. As we've discussed, we're coming into some new strategies internally, and we've kicked around the idea and discussion about potentially utilizing LPR on a pre-charge-off basis. Not sure exactly how soon we'll get there, but I do know it's something that we've discussed and kind of kick the tires on a time or two.
Absolutely. Well, Dion, before we open before we open it up to the broader audience, any other closing remarks, items of note, anything else before we open it up?
No, sir, I'm good on this side.
Well, Dion, thank you so much for your time. John, thank you so much for your time. And with that, Nick, I'd love to open it up to the broader audience for any general Q&A for Naz and I. We'd be happy to answer any questions and address anything as we have kind of 15 minutes.
Absolutely. And one question that did come in early on, and you touched on it briefly in your presentation, but again, if you could recap the coverage that MVTRAC has with its capabilities, and then its relationship with DRN. If you could recap the markets and state by state coverage that the company offers.
Sure. Naz, why don't you take that?
Yeah, can we go back to the map, Brad? I don't know if I know you have control, but I mean, there's going to be some clear states in gray there where, we don't have coverage: Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Arkansas has got some laws, and then, in Maine and those areas, but otherwise, MV is going to have coverage, obviously everywhere else. I can tell you Iowa, Montana, Washington State are areas that, we are in talks with some agents to kind of get going. Obviously, we've got some pretty hefty compliance standards. So sometimes in some of the other states where we need to strengthen our network, it just takes a little time for us to partner with that agent and build them up to, the level of compliance that we need. Yep, we're going to get some DRN affiliates in Washington for sure. And that's where a lot of our, a lot of these areas where we're missing some agents. I know that our partnership with DRN will obviously let us fill those gaps, which, our whole vendor management team is working around the clock trying to get as many agents as possible every week, specifically in those states where we're lacking coverage. That way we can, service our clients and get those agents working.
I think just to piggyback off Naz's comment, one of the things where it's not just a simple, yeah, why don't you just turn on these agents in these states and it's no big deal. I think one of the hallmarks of MV is its strict compliance standards. And, as it relates specifically to onboarding agents, let's use a hypothetical example. And this is actually a real life example, but hypothetical in terms of the stats used in this example. So if, let's say we have 10 lender partners, and of the 10, 9, let's say there's 10 compliance standards, and of our 10 partners, 9 of the 10 require, 7 out of the 10 compliance items to be met by every agent. And one of our partners requires all 10 compliance standards to be met in order for an agent to do their work. What MV does, and what's unique to MV, is that it doesn't pick and choose and cherry pick, like, okay, we'll sign on this agent, but they can only do these 3 clients worth of work. What MV does is it onboards an agent and says, or in order to onboard an agent, they need to be compliant across all 10 compliance measures. And that way, we don't have an inherent risk in our platform from an agent perspective in someone who is either not wanted to do the work for a client or not following the SLAs or compliance requirements of that client, because we apply the strictest standards from our strictest client and make every agent adhere to that standard across the board. That way, every agent MV onboards can do work for every client that MV has.
Very good. Very good. Well, to revisit another portion of your presentation, gentlemen, if you could revisit the case claim functionality that MVTRAC has. If you could revisit some of the main points there, how it perhaps functions with other technologies such as ClearPlan or some other finance company technology that they might have in place. A quick review there as well.
Yeah, so to answer the question, the case claim function does exist in ClearPlan. It's currently in beta testing where we've identified kind of some of our higher producing agents to get this tested with. So obviously it's going to be fully integrated with ClearPlan. There's going to be a claim button right there for any case that's associated with MV for the agents and affiliates to go ahead and use that function. So it's an exciting thing. It's been about 80 days in the making, both sides working hard. So hats off to ClearPlan and the MV development team. But that's going to be something that we're looking forward to getting out there to the masses, which is going to bring obviously a lot of excitement, which is just going to streamline kind of everything I talked about with the MVTRAC case claim. ClearPlan obviously is what I like to call the eyes of the affiliate network. So to be able to take a tool and a big asset like ClearPlan and implement the case claim into that, it's really going to just up everyone's performance and compliance and ability to just get things done the way it should be. So that's coming soon. I would expect some information about ClearPlan and MVTRAC case claim coming together in the next, I'd say, 2 weeks max, 2 to 4 weeks max.
That's exciting, and indeed. Continuing on with our special webinar with the leadership of MVTRAC, Naz Akel and Brad Davis. Gentlemen, another inquiry that's come in, and Brad will have this for you as you addressed it in the presentation earlier. If you could just recap the cultivating relationship that you've had with the agent network, just how that's gone throughout this turbulent year of 2020, and how you've been able to grow that network as you indicated in the closing slide.
Well, I think, ultimately Naz is integral in terms of our relationship as an entity, as MV, if you want to talk about it from a wholesale perspective, with our agents in the field. He is, just as John and Dion had alluded to their ability to call me morning, noon, and night, our agents feel the exact same level of comfort in contacting Naz morning, noon, and night. And he doesn't love that all the time with a new baby at home, but Naz does an excellent job of directly being available. And so that way it gives a level of comfort that is unique to MV, where they can contact not just, a help desk line, they can contact senior leadership and get a direct answer, or get at least a promise to address that issue when Naz has the time in order to do so, or he can task someone from our team who are working 24/7. Or we have a 24/7 presence from a help desk perspective to help address that issue. I think furthermore, what the Asian community saw from MV was our investment in their success. Not only do we do things to help them automate their processes in the field, mitigate, potential problems, make things as non-manual as possible, and it's easy to compliantly get the job done. Not only to get paid from MV, but also to provide, excellent service to our lender clients. And I think what they saw was an investment in that, not only from the integrations and the processes we're improving, but also from just straight cash. I mean, we were paying them to continue reading during the pandemic. We were trying to make sure that MV made it known to our agent network, we care about you. And we did that by instituting the Reads Incentive Program, by making sure that over 75% of our agent population was out there scanning and getting paid to continue gathering data and have some semblance of normalcy during a time where, we had no idea what coronavirus or COVID was going to morph into. All we knew is that we wanted to keep our agents operational as the assignment volume was decreasing and everything was getting put on hold. We wanted to make sure that we were doing right by the agents. And I think that has paid dividends. So, Naz, if you have anything to add to that, feel free.
No, I mean, I think you covered it all. I think obviously, MV, we offer an array of services, obviously to clients and agents, but I think the thing that solidifies all that stuff is, the relationships that we build with folks on this side. I mean, obviously, I'm a very, small business oriented person. If I go to the dry cleaners or if I go to, get deli meat from the grocery store, I know those people by name and they take care of you and they know what you like and what your preferences are. And I think it's the same way here when, whether you're an agent, an affiliate client, you reach out to MB and you have that relationship, you have that friendship. And that's, I think, what elevates our ability to execute for everybody. And then, I see a question from Andy Sinclair. As far as our agent growth, that has been very much associated with DRN affiliates, our ability to onboard those affiliates and obviously bring them a tool in regards to, our assignments, our case claim function, and have them go out there and execute in those areas. So for sure, we grew our agent network thanks to DRN, allowing us to communicate with those folks that are a very impressive group of agents that can move the needle. So it was exciting as heck to, be able to flex our muscle a little bit more in regards to being able to pick up cars with some of the best agents, if not the best agents in the country.
Yeah. And just for a generic, to answer to just summarize that for Mr. Sinclair, you can just use this as a kind of a summary answer. The agent network, it was roughly, 300 agents, give or take, up until about a month and a half ago. It's going to hit that kind of 600 mark by the end of the year, and it'll hit the 900 mark by the end of Q1. And that's why you'll always see from a materials perspective, you'll see that we've basically been able to, through our partnership with DRN, double our effective footprint in 2020 and triple our effective footprint by the end of Q1 2021. So it's a very fast moving process. In the next kind of 5 months, we we are looking to continue and triple our footprint in North America. And as Naz alluded to, what that does is it makes sure that from a compliance perspective, we're still providing that premium level of service based on the requirements MV has in order to onboard those agents, which also has the trickle down effect of just creating lift in terms of, you know, the repo rate percentages and the KPIs that everybody likes to track and follow up through our lender partners.
Very good. Again, our special guest for this webinar is the executive team at MVTRAC, Brad Davis and Naz Akel. And gentlemen, to round us out, perhaps looking ahead, as you referenced, into 2021, perhaps might be a more active industry landscape as perhaps as repossessions increase. If you could looking ahead and how finance companies can get involved with MVTRAC, some of the protocols, processes, and fees that might be included. Gentlemen, each have a turn to wrap us up.
Sure. So I think, you know, I'll, from a client perspective, I think the easiest way to have a conversation with MV is to give me a call. And what we'll do is we'll provide my direct cell phone, my direct contact information, and anyone that's participating or listening to this, feel free to contact me directly and we can have a conversation. But in short, you know, getting onboarded with MV is actually fairly straightforward. We have real-time API connections with every system of record in the marketplace today. We have an existing agent network that's hungry and growing. And ultimately, you know, we have the processes and the automation in place where, you know, you're not paying anything to onboard with us. The ROI is immediate because you don't pay us until we repossess a vehicle for you. And you know, we see an influx of activity coming in the next few months as these, you know, loan deferment programs come offline. We do see the assignment mix shifting to new work. So, you know, the unfortunate thing is that customers still fail to pay their bills sometimes. And, you know, as that trickles down through the collection process, MV will stand ready to provide that end-to-end service. However your need may present itself from a collection standpoint. If you want to see, you know, an uptick in your repossession activity or some lift from a KPI perspective, feel free to give us a call. Naz, if you have anything else, please feel free.
Yeah, I'll just end with, you know, obviously I appreciate everyone taking the time to come through, and whatever we can do for you as a client, we're interested in. So, you know, if there's a new service or new things you want to talk about, or, hey, here's a list of 1,000 VINs and we want to know, you know, some information about these. Are they recoverable? You know, special pricing, you know, anything we can do as a business to work with clients to basically be able to let you know what we can do for you. Even if it's something that you may not know that we offer or whatever it is, but we're always want the channel open, and we always want to be able to communicate with folks and just be able to provide information and analytics against whatever it is that you have interest in. That way we can tell you, hey, here's what you're interested in. Here's some facts that we put together. How can we take action on this?
Yeah, and I think that's an underappreciated facet of the organization that I even fail to evangelize at times, and that Naz touched on is our agility as an organization. We're large enough to provide, you know, those classic LPR, skip to repo, deep skip services, but we're also agile enough to tailor a product or a service to whatever your client, whatever your need may be. And you know, Naz and the development team and our agents in the field are certainly more than willing to be helpful.
Very good, gentlemen. Well, again, thank you so much for participating in today's webinar. That's been John Uranus of Bridgecrest, Dion Gage with Exeter, as well as our special presenters, Brad Davis and Naz Akel from MVTRAC. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives, and all the best to continued success while remaining safe and healthy during these times. Thank you again.
Same to you, Nick. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
Take care.
And For all of us at Cherokee Media Group, we thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to having you again next time.